Hello and welcome to Remembrance in Their Own Words, a limited series from the CDA Institute, Canada's premier defence and security think tank. I'm David Boris, and this is the first installment of the series. With Remembrance Day just a week away, we take this moment to honour the dedication and sacrifice of veterans across Canada. In today's evolving defence landscape, it's important to take time to reflect on the services of those who came before, support those who continue to serve, and commit to working for peace and unity. Join us as our guests share stories, insights, and perspectives that highlight the courage and commitment of the Canadian Armed Forces. Today on the podcast, we welcome MPP for Kanata-Carleton, Karen McCrimmon. After a 31-year military career, Karen retired as a lieutenant colonel and served as the first female navigator and the first woman to command an Air Force squadron. With an extensive career in service and politics, she brings a breadth of perspective into today's discussion. Stay with us as we hear from Karen and uncover the lessons that continue to shape Canada's defense and honor those who serve. Okay, Karen, so to begin with, could you briefly tell us where and in what capacity you served in the Canadian Forces?
Okay, so I was in the Army Reserve, in an Army Reserve unit in Windsor, Ontario, from 1975 to 1980. So that's how I paid my way through university. I had started out in cadets. I joined cadets on a dare. My brother dared me, because girls don't do cadets. And so I said, well, I'll show you. So I joined cadets and did really well there and really enjoyed it. And I thought, well, this is all right, and I then I went to university and I studied languages and French, German, and Russian. And because I really wanted to become a member of the diplomatic corps, that's kind of the direction I was heading in. But then in 1980, when I graduated from university, the government had laid off 250 foreign service officers. So I thought, okay, it's going to be a while before that particular path opens again. And at the same time, they opened flying trades to women. So I had at the reserve unit that I was at, we had a reserve service officer who said, you should do this. You'd be really good. You should do this. So I kind of, okay. I thought, okay, give it a try. I've always loved airplanes, right? My dad worked for Avro Aircraft, and then he went on to work for TransCanada Airlines and Air Canada. So I was always around airplanes. They were part of my household. So I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. So they went in and I did all the tests and all that. And they said, okay, you can apply and you can go to aircrew selection. And I went to aircrew selection and I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. But at the end of it, they said, okay, we have enough women who want to be pilots, but we don't have any women who want to be navigators. Would you be a navigator? I didn't know. I thought, sure. What the heck? Why not? Is that, said I just want to do something different and exciting and maybe see the world if I'm lucky. And so I got selected to be a navigator. And then for the next 26 years of my life, I was a navigator in the Canadian Forces. And it was, I started in the reserves as a private, and then left the Canadian Forces 31 years later as a lieutenant colonel. So, and it gave me everything I could possibly have hoped for.
That's incredible. It's a really quite a groundbreaking career. And I'm sure, like you've said, you have decades of experience in the CAF, and this question is probably very complicated in terms of that, but would you be willing to share, let's say, one or two memorable moments from your time in the CAF?
Oh yeah. And I've given it a lot of thought, actually. And I thought to myself, what stories do I tell that I believe demonstrates the best of Canada and the best of the CAF. And because I think right now the world needs what Canada and the CAF have to offer, and that is a focus on teams and how to be a team player, a focus on leadership that serves, and the idea of service, and then how do you build trust? And because right now the world is suffering from that, a lack of those kind of things. And I was really pleased to hear our Prime Minister say that Canada would step up, because I tell you, in my tour in Afghanistan, I knew this all the way along, but it was made crystal clear the role that Canada can play in the world. So I had a NATO tour for 4 years in Ramstein, Germany. And what the Canadians did in Ramstein was build bridges. That's what we did. We built bridges. We every day I worked for a Danish general for about 2 years, and he would show up in my office regularly, and he'd because he wanted to talk to me, and he goes, "Karen, go to the auditorium and explain the Americans to the Europeans." Okay, sir. I'll go do that. And so, and another time he'll come and you say, well, go here. We need you to go and give this talk and explain the Americans to the Europeans, and try and get them all, to work together. And so part of my job when I was in that NATO headquarters was getting that headquarters ready to deploy. And it was the first time that this NATO air headquarters had deployed as a headquarters. And of course, if you look at Canada, we'd have so many deployments, like everything from armed peacekeeping to humanitarian relief. Canada stepped up and did what needs to be done. We're not specialists. You know what we are? We're generalists. We've got the skills, we've got the talents, we've got the heart, we've got the gumption and the guts to do whatever needs to be done, and we step up. And I think that's the example that Canada sets for the rest of the world. So in NATO, it was like that all the time, so the Americans had a great big bureaucratic structure about getting ready for deployments, and you had to do this and you had to do that, and these people could do that, and the Europeans weren't as big a structure as the United States was, right? Much smaller, and we ended up with 20 at one point. I think we had 22 nations in Afghanistan. It's probably more than that, but when I was there, they all had varying degrees of experience in how to do this. And it was my job to kind of get them as ready as I could possibly get them in order to go to Afghanistan. And to do that, I end up being in charge of the airlift component in Afghanistan in the ISAF headquarters. And so I went and visited all the countries that I needed to get airlift resources from, who would prepare to send their airlift resources to Afghanistan, and I met with them all personally. And I think that's something that Canada does well. We just don't take it for granted. Oh, we're going to tell you what to do and you do it. We kind of went there and said, we really need your help. We need your aircraft and we need your crews. We need your know-how. We need to do this. And I think I earned the trust of a lot of those different countries, and they contributed their aircraft and crews. And it was the first time in NATO history that a NATO airlift component had operational control of airlift resources. And so they all knew that we needed them there, and that things would have to be done slightly differently. But what we worked really hard was to earn that trust, to say, don't worry, we'll look after your people, and, we won't let them, do dangerous things, and we won't take advantage of them either. And I think that idea of trust, I think it's something that the world kind of looks at Canada now and says, I think we can trust Canada. There's a lot going on, and that trust really matters. So And I think it is about valuing people, recognizing and acknowledging what people bring individually, and knowing that we're not all the same. But if we can get everybody heading off in the same direction, we'll be fine. So
Yeah, Karen, it's funny. Unintentionally, you became the diplomat that you were intending to in the very beginning, didn't you? I mean, this sounds very much like you are using diplomacy to coalesce the NATO partners into what you've identified as this groundbreaking mission in Afghanistan. And I think that's phenomenal. We're coming up on November 11th. And obviously, for many of us in this conversation and for many of us in this country, November 11th is such an important date. And I would love to get your thoughts on why do you think Remembrance Day is so important?
well, there's for some of us, like I know that it's stories are all different from all members of CAF, right? I flew Hercs in the 80s up until the mid 90s. And in that time, we had a number of accidents and and I lost a number of friends, people that I shared a cockpit with or a classroom with or was on operation with or deployment with. And by the grace of God, right? Could have been any of us. And so I give thanks, and I don't want to let them be forgotten, because they made that ultimate sacrifice, and so it's a personal thing, and it's also remembering. And again, it comes back to the difference that Canada has made in the world. Like we're 40 million people. We're not one of these large, huge countries. We are huge geographically, but not numerically. But again and again, the world asks us to step up, and we do. And when we do step up, we do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're there. We know why we're there. And we earn the trust and the respect of the colleagues that we work with right around the world. Look at Vimy Ridge. My husband's grandfather, did not fight at Vimy Ridge, but he was held in reserve. He would have been the next in, right? And but if you look at everything that happened in Vimy, Canadians went, yeah, this doesn't make sense. No, I'm not going to throw any more into this shooting match where our people are losing. This is just a waste of lives. We've got to figure out another way of doing that. So what they did? They did. They changed the tactics. They changed the strategy, and then they practice and practice and practice, and they were able to achieve their objectives, and objectives that much larger forces hadn't been able to do. And it's because they look at things logically and they go, okay, this is not what we want, so we're going to change things.
Mm.
We're going to do it differently. And that's something that I think Canada's never been afraid to do. And that's do it differently. So when even in World War II and in Korea and in Afghanistan, we've always stepped up when the world needed us to be there. So I think it's so important to remember those sacrifices, because it's not just the sacrifices of the members of the military, but it's their families. I mean, so that's somebody's child, So that hits my heart. And I think I wouldn't ever want to forget that, the sacrifices that were made.
Oh, thank you. That's really moving. Um, and our final question here, and you've talked about the nature of the world today, the importance of trust, the role that Canada can play in forging those bonds, not just with, the United States, but with many allies and many nations. And so for the final question, could you comment on the current state of the Canadian defense environment, and why is it important for the nation to maintain a strong defensive posture?
It's I think we have been at war for a few years now.
Mm.
But it's a different kind of war. Right now, what's happening is the preparation of the battle space. This is what is happening. And so many of the attacks on democracies around the world, these aren't one-offs. This is all connected. Britain and Brexit, they knew that would destroy that country, and the economic damage done by Brexit, it's horrendous, and it's going to take a long time before Britain comes back to where it was before. And in Europe, in the European countries, what's happening? You can see the far right actually making advances in European countries, the forces against democracy. So, in the United States, the path that they're on is a very frightening path. We've seen it before. I mean, history doesn't exactly repeat itself. And I don't know, somebody said, but it rhymes.
It rhymes.
It rhymes. And what's happening right now in the United States, it's rhyming. Mm-hmm. So these aren't one-offs. These are all connected. And so what Canada needs to do is do what it does best. Go out and build those teams. The teams that will counter this kind of ideology, that will counter the destruction of democracy. And Canada does that best by building teams. By going out, and I'm pleased with our Prime Minister going out and talking to the other nations and get everybody, because none of us, this is divide and conquer, right? That's what they want, divide and conquer. So we need someone that can go out there and say, okay, we can't be divided. We have to work together. And that's the only way we're going to survive this. So that kind of leadership based on teams, based on being of service, based on trust, based on wanting the best for everybody, right? Not being selfish about it, being selfless. And I think if you look at Canada's history and our history at war and the things we remember at Remembrance Day, on Remembrance, it's that selflessness. The world is going to need more of us today. And so I think we've got a fight on our hands, and but I think we're on a good path, as good as we can possibly make it. I'm glad to see the commitment to more resources for national defense. This is exactly, and we've got to think about fighting the next war, not the last one. This is a mistake I see happening in national defense over and over and over again because we're so slow with procurement, and we're so slow to actually see where but Gretzky skate to where the puck is going. We have to skate to where the puck is going right now, and so I want to make sure that is exactly what's happening. And I've talked to a few friends about that and how we can improve things in procurement. And I'm hearing the right words. No, I just need to see it implemented. So, it's teamwork, it's leadership, it's trust, it's service, it's selflessness, and that's the direction I think the Canadians would want us to go.
That's really well said. Karen McCrimmon, thank you for your service, and thank you for coming on today and talking with us. We really appreciate your time.
It's been a privilege, David. Thank you.
That's all for today. If you want to learn more about the CDA Institute, follow us on social media, visit our website at cdainstitute.ca, or subscribe to our newsletter for the latest updates on Canadian defense and international security. If you have comments or feedback about what you heard in today's edition, email our hardworking director, Josh at cdainstitute.ca. I'm David Boris. Until next time.